Rick?
I'm ready when you're ready.
All right, I'll call the meeting to order. The Campus Reconfiguration Committee for the month of June. Clerk Kalish, would you check our roll, please?
Carroll. Here. Brewer. Renish. Glassburner.
Here.
Turk.
Here.
Frank. Williamson.
Here.
You have 4 present. You have just enough for a quorum, so you all have to stay.
Yes. And are we in compliance with the open meetings law?
Yes, the law is properly noticed, Mr. Chair.
We have before us a 12-point agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Glassburner, second by Carroll. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we should have minutes as well from the May 14th meeting of the Campus Reconfiguration Committee. Any clarifications, questions, issues with the minutes as they were presented? Hearing none, I'll declare those minutes to be approved. Item 6, public comment. Any member of the public wish to address the committee? Anybody online? No? All right, hearing none, we will move on with our agenda and reports under item 7. First one, item A review of estimated utility expenses for campus buildings. Administrator Fish.
So I've distributed a listing, so we've been unable to get this information, but thank you to the person who provided the information and was able to get their hands on this. So what I did was, this was a large number of electronic documents, and so I gave them to our wizard Larry and asked him to compile them into something legible. So you can see that overall, the lowest month of utilities for the campus was $6,228, and the highest months were, pushing 12,000. So that is an estimate on what the utilities would look like annually, which is about $112,000 and about $9,400 a month average.
And this data is from October of 23 through April of 24, so this is in very lightly occupied and used condition.
Correct. This is in very lightly and yeah. So this is just an idea of what is to come. This is only a little piece of, the decisions that we have to make going forward. Obviously, there's still a lot at play with the assessment that's coming, but this is information that we have been unable to obtain from the university directly. So now this just gives us a little more to help along with our decision making.
If you took the total of that period, the grand total in the far lower right-hand column, you're looking at 112,000 plus per year, again in lightly occupied and used condition.
Correct. And certain buildings are definitely larger consumers than others, and that's noted as well.
Questions on this, Mr. Carroll?
So, unless things move really fast, I'm assuming a number like this is what you put in the 2025 budget.
If we were planning that we would have to cover these costs, then yeah, this is probably the approximate number we would estimate.
I'm assuming we have to. Yeah,
Good
unless
bet.
things move really
Yeah.
fast.
Well, and again, that depends on what we find out. If we find out that these buildings are feasible and they can be repurposed, great. If we find out that they are not, then it's a discussion point of do we heat and cool them? So it's really all, again, dependent on the outcome of what we have and the information that we are given. But yes, pending no further information, if we wanted to budget for, then yes, this is the number that we would put in.
No questions? And gratitude to the person who was able to get us these numbers. Item B under reports, Venture Architects update.
So Venture Architects was here last Thursday and Friday. They met with groupings. So they met with, one grouping was the courts grouping. They met with Health and Human Services. They met with the Sheriff's Department and jail. And then they met with pretty much kind of the administrative, the rest of everybody else. And so they went over, each department submitted a space needs questionnaire that asked about various items. You know, how many staff do you have? How many members of the public do you serve? You know, what rooms do you have? So if you had a vault, you listed that. How big is that space? Do you have desks? Do you have cubicles? What do those measure? All of those things. So each department completed that, put all that data into a spreadsheet, and then when Venture was on site, they were able to then ask clarifying questions, ask about functionality. If you won the lottery tomorrow and can spend as much as you want, what things would you like to see? What things would you like to have? What would make doing your job easier, more effective? Those sorts of things. So each meeting with each department lasted approximately 2 to 2.5 hours. And so that gave them additional information to develop the space needs study. They will be doing some follow-up with some departments. They may come back in and look at some spaces again for further clarification. But all in all, I think it went extremely well. So just an update on where they're at with that piece. We're still on track to have the full feasibility study and space needs analysis done and completed by mid-July.
Questions on that item from anybody? Candace? We'll move on to item 8, discussion and possible action, repairs to West Bridge at the UW campus. And Josh, the Highway Commissioner, is joining us.
Okay, so as per request at our last meeting, we looked at going after the West Bridge to get started, just one bridge at a time. So MSA came through, they got all the information put together, which is also in your packets. So one of the top pieces is going to be the engineering. Engineering comes in at $72,009.52 with a sub-consultant brought on board for soil testing that comes in at $8,540. Then you have project management. So during the time of construction, MSA functions as a construction manager for the project because most of the questions that need to be answered comes from the engineers. That comes in at $28,508.40. And the last page is a detailed materials cost for the replacement of it. So that comes in at $466,250.30. And they maintain a 5% contingency, which means they allow for about $23,312 to cover any additional costs for price increases and so on and so forth. So grand total for the materials and the bridge itself is $489,000. Grand total for the project, this is a tight estimate that I feel confident in with everything combined, is $607,160.74 for the replacement of one bridge. Chair.
As we discussed at the last meeting, you know, the bridges out there aren't efficient. They're not even in good enough shape that we can realistically contemplate moving any kind of heavy equipment or anything out there at this point without causing significant damage to them. And we discussed that we wanted to get this estimate to try to figure out, okay, how can we get this so we're going to repurpose or whatever, that we can actually access it safely and reliably. So questions from the committee?
How long's the bid good for?
Well, I've already signed off on 2 of the agreements for the design and engineering, so they are valid and running right now. They are valid and running as of right now.
So do we need to actually do anything on this now?
Do we need to forward this to the full board to get approval, identifying where we're going to get money from and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think the next step is if you want to do this, we need to identify where we're going to get the
Or
funding
does this go to
from.
executive first?
Yeah, probably executive first.
Okay.
Is that going to be a problem schedule-wise? I mean,
What do you mean?
because it wouldn't go till next month then.
No, the main cost of the bridge is $607,000. I've already initiated the engineering side of it, so we're already paying on that bill, so it's active and running.
Okay.
But we need to make sure we secure the money in total for the beginning of next year when we can theoretically go out for bid for construction.
Okay. Then I'll make a motion to forward that to executive.
Okay, we have a motion to forward to executive. I'll second it. Second from Williamson. Further discussion? In favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Josh. Back to the agenda here. Item 9, correspondence. Do we have any correspondence for the committee?
None for me.
We've received no further information from the state after their declaration that as of July 1st, we're getting the keys.
No further information.
Future agenda items. By mid-July, we're supposed to have our report, so that, looking at items 10 and 11 probably would coincide with when we want to have our next meeting, correct?
Yes, and I do anticipate our firm wanting to have a meeting with this committee prior to going to the full board
Okay.
with, wanting feedback or anything additional. So once I get that request, then we can schedule an additional meeting.
Okay, so for July, the county board will actually be meeting quite early, July 15th.
That's,
So
That's
it
the
might not
third.
get till August. We're not getting a report till the.
Or with the significance of this issue, would we
Maybe
want to
special
schedule
meeting.
a
Schedule an
special
extra
meeting?
meeting, yeah.
Probably the next week.
Yep, potentially. Depending on how soon we have it
Right.
ready. Yeah.
So, since we don't know when for sure it's going to be ready at this point, we will target a meeting in mid-July prior to a special meeting of the county board. But we don't know exactly what date that will be yet, so watch for notification once we get stuff down. We met with 4 tonight. That's how many we need to be able to have a meeting for this committee, so hopefully we can get a couple more people here for that. All right, any other future agenda items?
Mr. Chair, yeah, possibly, we may be looking at having changed the name of this committee, depending on where we go with it. It may become county, I don't know, we'll just have, maybe we'll put it on the agenda.
As we look at the scope of what needs to happen moving forward, because the needs assessment is not just the campus buildings. The scope may be wider than just campus reconfiguration, and we may have to look at renaming and rescoping the task of this committee at a future time, which would involve action from the board. So that is definitely a consideration. Any other future agenda items? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Carroll moves, Ingrid seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Tickety-tock.